It is Matt Mosley's Obstructed View, and this is our edition where we react quickly to a Baylor game, and the Bears pull away with a enormous win in Morgantown, and 49-35, because was really hoping for 49-28, but West Virginia scored late, but it ends a drought against the Mountaineers. Mountaineers came into the conference in 2012. Baylor lost that game 70-63, their first trip to Morgantown. They have since then they've been 0-6 all time versus the Mountaineers, and they have broken through. And they get the win, and this was a great win. All these wins have been fun, but to get that fourth win in a row and to become bowl eligible is just huge. And we'll start right there. It's what Dave Aranda has done when everybody kind of thought, and I remember being on this podcast and talking to you guys about, like, I didn't think there was any way back from that Colorado game. And then, of course, the Iowa State game, they fall to 2-4, and it just didn't seem like there was any path forward with this staff, with this coach, this head coach for sure. And yet they find a way. And there were hints of some things in the past that brought back some, like, you kind of get scared because they've had so many tough times under Dave Aranda that you're like, okay, I mean, in this game against West Virginia, you have a chance to really, you're up 28-14. And really, Iowa State, one of their touchdowns was like extremely lucky, which was just a ball that should have been picked off by Devin Bobby, and it went off his hands, into a West Virginia. And that same player, by the way, who had that touchdown, got hurt later in the game and had to be carted off. The 20, so it's 28-14 in Baylor. And it was just kind of a strange moment in this game. They go for an onside kick, and they didn't ask their kicker to do it. They literally had one of their cornerbacks, Reggie Bush II, no relation. The kicker was kind of walking back like he was going to walk back to do the kick, and all of a sudden 22 comes up and kicks the and it was a decent looking little onside kick, but they didn't get it. The ball goes out of bounds, the penalty, and they give West Virginia a short field. And so it was just like, just an immediate score. They go down the field, they make it 28-21. That was kind of weird. And then they go up, 35-21. This was like an unreal first half for Sawyer Robertson. He may have had like a better overall game this season, but his first half was just insane. He was, at one point I looked up and he was 16 for 18 for 250 yards passing or something. He was just, it was crazy how great he was playing. Now he ends up 26 for 36 for 325 yards and 3 touchdowns. A tremendous day. But at the half, it was, they were, it was incredible. So they're up 35-20. They're up 35-28 at half. I was worried at the end of the half, with about a minute left. I didn't think they managed the clock real well. It's hard you don't tell your running back, hey, don't run in the end zone. But they were down there in a first and goal situation, and they called a timeout after the first down play. And it was just like, there was like 55 seconds left. I just thought, oh man, you almost want some time to go off the clock there. And then at one point, I think West Virginia may have called a timeout themselves, but the Mountaineers called it. So they get the ball back and go down and score at the gun on a disputed play. And I just have to say, you all know this. Every Baylor fan who's watching this and is familiar with his team, you was going through your mind too. It's like, oh my gosh, like, they let them get it to 35-28, and then also it looked like Big Alinus, made the Noel made the hit at the goal line. I mean, you're not hitting Linus and moving him. So that running back or the quarterback went the wrong direction. What do you got there? And that was Garrett Green. And he's a pretty good quarterback, and he was running on Baylor like crazy. And so, but they called it a touchdown. And there was no good angle. Like, I don't know if that's ESPN's fault. I don't know whose fault. It's just there was no great angle. And so I knew once we saw all the angles, which none of them helped. I mean, why in the world wouldn't there be like a pylon cam? There's a camera and everything in the world. You got to have one down the goal line for scoring plays. How do you not have that camera? So they couldn't. I mean, again, I don't think he got in, but they didn't have enough evidence to overturn it. And so the Bears go into the second half, and they get down there, and Monterey has a big play, goes for 30 yards, and they end up deciding they're in a 4th and 12 because they had a holding penalty to put them back. And so they had like a 3rd and 18. They had a short pass to get to 3rd and 12. And Dave elects to let Hankins try a 55-yard field goal. I mean, I didn't love it, especially after I saw him kick it. It really didn't get there. It wasn't a horrible kick, but it wasn't that close. Like, I know he's a talented guy and he's got a big leg, but I mean, you're in the elements. It's pretty cold. I mean, let's not get carried away here. All right. He hit a game winner the week before, but let's not. So, where they were on the field, I'm sure they weren't dying to punt, but also 4th and 12 would have been a little bit too long. So I don't know. Again, you give them a short field, and then the defense, I mean, for everything that went wrong in the first half and all the yards that were given up and the short fields and all the weird decision-making that happened, the defense answered the bell in the second half. It pretty much threw a shutout. It was meaningless at the very end. West Virginia went down, scored a touchdown with about a minute left in the game, so Baylor was able to run out the clock after that. But the defense, twice they had just huge 4th down stops. I mean, and I'm talking about with West Virginia in great shape. And on one of those, Matt Jones blew it up when they were down there close to the goal line, and he blew that. They were trying to go for it on 4th and short, and he blows the play up, and he rushes Green. And Green throws it to his tight end, which is complete, but it was short of the stick. So big time hold right there. When it looked like, hey, the Bears made a weird decision here, they're gonna and of course West Virginia wasn't one to kick any field goals, and so they went for it and they didn't get it. And by the way, that was like one of 3, in the second half. I think that they went for it on 4th down and weren't able to get it. There was another play where Matt Jones looks like he's going to blitz, and he drops back, and he breaks up the pass. It was an enormous play in a game that nobody was scoring at that point. It's like still 35-28, and thank goodness the Bears go down and they take care of business 42-28. So you're feeling good. You're not feeling great, but you're still feeling like, okay, we pretty much have control. Anything could happen. But nobody's been scoring, and so great to score. And then Corey Gordon Jr., love the kid, met his family at a game earlier this season. He's a play-in dude, man. And I think he had a big interception against BYU, if I'm not mistaken. One of those games to kind of help try to get the Bears back in it. He's got, I think, 3 on the season. I think he leads Baylor. Carl Williams was out of this game with an injury, and apparently that he suffered in Wednesday's practice. And Carl's a really good all-around player, can do everything, very versatile, tremendous safety. But Corey, I mean, I saw earlier this year when you had I'm trying to remember if it was Lemire or Tevin or somebody was really struggling. And I think it was against Colorado, and I know at the end of the game, Corey didn't do exactly what you wanted. I mean, they really had a lot of people that end of the Colorado game. I don't blame that on one player, but Corey is just every time they put him in a game, he makes plays. And he's going to make some mistakes, but man, that interception basically put the game away. And I thought Jenkins was getting called for PI a lot in this game. One of them I thought was just plain old hand fighting, and thought he made a pretty nice play on the ball. The other one, there was a tug involved, I think, but it really weren't to me. I thought he played pretty well. I mean, he's obviously a very, very accomplished cover guy. He's just gonna, right now, for whatever reason, the refs seem to have it out for him, and they're looking for things. I'm not saying he's not doing like little stuff, but some of those calls, I don't know. I don't know for sure. But anyway, so he's in coverage over on the sideline, and in pretty good coverage, I might add. And here comes Corey, playing center field, and he read the quarterback. Green rolled that way, and he just watched his eyes, and he was on it. He's a smooth player, like he really is. He's a red shirt sophomore, I guess it is, but man, he's good. I mean, Jenkins and Corey and DJ, these guys are going to be good. I mean, they give up a lot of yards, and they have some issues in coverage, but I like how they played in the second half. I thought Dave was like, blitzing. I think they made Green very uncomfortable. I mean, West Virginia had plenty of opportunities to get back in that game. I mean, they were in the game. It was 35-28, and they just couldn't capitalize. And the defense just made plays. Matt Jones had a tremendous second half. Keaton Thomas goes home. He played his first year of college football at West Virginia, walked on there, is what they said on the broadcast. I didn't even really know that story. And I don't know why he left there, but I'm just glad he's at Baylor. I mean, Keaton's he's a tremendous linebacker. He covers a lot of ground. 12 tackles in this game. You could tell it just meant the world to him. I mean, the sacks were coming from everywhere. Trevin Mai had one big, number 9. Jackie Marshall was making plays. I mean, the sacks were just kind of, it was really nice to see. Linus was getting penetration. He just takes up so much. I just thought the second half, I don't know exactly. I would have to look back and really study the film to have a great appreciation for all that they did, but it was different. And there were adjustments. One of the big adjustments was quarterback was killing him with his legs. In the second half, they counted for him more. He still got a little bit of stuff, but it just wasn't as bad. I mean, they didn't assign anybody to him. I thought Garmin played beautifully in the second half. I mean, I have so many pictures in my mind right now of guys just taking care of business, like just constantly on that quarterback, making him throw it away, sacking him, coming around from behind. Keaton had a sack, retracing their steps, as the analyst said a million times. On offense, I mean, I think Josh Cameron's one of the best players in the conference. He was always kind of like the sure-handed guy, but as we've seen in his punt returns, he's ridiculously tough to corral. I mean, he put 2 unbelievable moves. I think that was a 43-yard touchdown. Just gets the ball in space, makes a safety miss, makes another I think it was a corner, makes him miss, and he's just to the house. So I don't think we used to think of him for his speed, but he's got plenty of speed. And then I thought the Bears did a nice job of not giving up on the run. The run wasn't there. I mean, by halftime, it was they Sawyer had thrown for, it seemed like 270 yards or something crazy. And he's throwing for all the touchdowns. And yet in the second half, they leaned on West Virginia. They controlled the clock. And then Bryson, he did have the one 53-yard touchdown. So I guess that was a pretty quick drive. But the rest of the time, man, he's unbelievable because he'll run through contact, and then those guys will start pushing him, and then they just start to wear on a defensive line. So they couldn't stop him. I bet he accounted for because I think he had 57 receiving yards. He had over 120 yards rushing. So somewhere around 185 total yards that he accounted for and 4 touchdowns. I mean, what a catch. They've got somebody on him trying to track him up. Might have been a linebacker, tried to pick him up on that first touchdown. And Sawyer just, I mean, it was just gorgeous. He just drops it in there. I mean, Sawyer did everything they could. I mean, I thought you kept having moments in this game where you thought things were going to come back to haunt them. They've got a great shot on a third down play and in 3rd and 5 or whatever it was, and Monterey just drops it. Now Monterey's a great player. I mean, he makes a ton of plays, but Sawyer threw a perfect pass right across the middle, and you're just like, oh my gosh, is that gonna, like in the past, I think we thought that's gonna kill them, like that's gonna be the one, or man, they didn't keep that drive going, and we can always point to these things, and yet the defense just kept finding a way. Like there were people running around out there that I was just like, wait, who is that? I mean, because Carl was out, Simpkins continues to be out. They had several players that just weren't really a part of things. Carl's a huge part of things. But, I mean, you get Caleb Parker in there. I mean, he made a play. They were real mad. And Neil Brown was so mad that they didn't call Caleb Parker because Green was sliding. Hey, you've got to slide. You can't fake slide. I mean, they've been trying to address that in college football, and he was late getting to his slide. What do you want the guy to do on defense? He wasn't headhunting. He didn't hit him. He didn't lead with his crown or anything like that. So Neil Brown was like throwing a fit. I thought that was some of the whiniest sideline stuff I've seen. I mean, his Brown was just whining the whole game. And then, of course, they interviewed him during the game on ESPN, and he said something like, well, it was kind of took a lot of emotion out of us that we had an injured player. I mean, I feel for the guy, and he looked like he hurt his ankle pretty badly or whatever. But I mean, it happens like in every game. There's something. I've never seen. Like, I understand it when a player is hurt and you want to be there for your teammate and all of that. But my gosh, they acted like, I mean, he's going to be okay. They carted him off. He's moving around great. And I mean, hopefully his foot is fine. But I mean, there was a little, I mean, they were like, ESPN was like, we're not going to show this to you. And it's like, okay. Oh, I don't know. I thought they were kind of like acting like that was some sort of excuse for whatever came after that. So I thought that was a little much. Again, feel bad for the guy. Number 7, he's a nice player, a good receiver for them. And I'm not saying they didn't miss him, but it was just kind of like, I think West Virginia did that to themselves. Like you have players injured and you're over there and you're there for them. But I mean, their emotion that they poured into that, it was like, wait, he's okay. He's going to be okay. He's fine. I thought, I'm just thinking of, I thought the line, once they sort of get going, there was one where Barrington, one of those big runs. I mean, just gorgeous what he did over on the left side. I mean, he just kind of crashed down and just took out like 2 players, took out 2 defenders. I love the play where I think that was Bryson. I'm trying to think who got carried into the end zone. Number 35 for West Virginia, I think, tried to make a play on Bryson. Bryson just carried him. I mean, hit him at the 5, and literally Bryson just took him into the end zone with him. And then at the end, when you just need to go ahead and put the game away, and it's 42-28, and you just need a nice drive to just go ahead and finish off the game, you give it to Pendergrass, and you didn't kick. I mean, I understand you want to make it a 3-score game, and maybe you want to make it 45-28, and they didn't kick. It's 4th and 2, and they handed the dang ball off because that's what you do. I didn't understand on 3rd down why they threw the ball. They had an incompletion, and and Dawson just, I mean, West Virginia didn't have any chance. Think about that. They have to have any chance in that game. They got to get a stop there. It's 4th and 2, and they lined up and they ran right over them. So, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things that have happened during this run. And Obedian, I might say, and Fugar, like these are really good. Colton Price. I saw Siraki hanging around down there. I mean, this has become a physically dominant football team. And that's just crazy based on where it was. And then to win, I mean, they won two different ways. In the first half, it's a track meet. Their coach kind of does some weird stuff on the onside kick, yet they overcame it. They're 35-28 at halftime, and you're kind of like, oh, man, I don't know what's going to happen here. And the defense bells them out on a couple of those things. And then, of course, the big takeaway. So then we get to this. What does this mean for Dave Aranda? What does this mean for the staff? This is huge. I mean, they were 2-4. They've won 4 straight. I mean, I'm sure there are Baylor fans that are listening to this and are like, well, still not, they're kind of wanting a change. I get it. I mean, when you're losing and you already maybe don't love a guy's personality, you're just kind of ready for change. But I think you always prefer, what's happened, turning things around, winning games. And here's what's happened. They are now 6-4. Unbelievably. They've gone from 2-4 to 6-4. They're one of the hottest teams in the country. I mean, they're really honestly probably one of the better teams in the conference. They're right now, in a scrum with all these people at 4-3 in conference. And I know it'd be fun to kind of think about the Colorado game. What if they'd won? They'd be 5-2, and they might be in the race. Have a shot at playing in the conference title game. But it's okay. It's okay. Like, he's turned it around. Has he done enough to deserve, coming back next season? Yeah. I didn't think we'd be here. I didn't think we'd be here by now. I thought, he would win one of those. Maybe he had 3 games to do it, and they just keep winning them all in a row. I didn't know this West Virginia seemed like kind of a toss-up. Didn't even seem like that since they'd never won there, and yet it doesn't matter to this team. Like, this team's kind of I saw Eddie Lackey tweet something after the game about, like, this reminds him of the 2012 team. That's a team with Nick Florence that started off poorly and was in a, like 2-5 or 2-1. I mean, they were not doing well. And then they just got on a huge run to end the season and finished either 7-5 or 8-4 or something like that. But they finished with a flourish, had a huge win. I think that was over K-State, had a great team that season. Man, this is remarkable to watch. And they are going to go to a bowl game. So Dave Aranda, I mean, I suppose if they lost these last 2 games to fall to 6-6, maybe there's a conversation to be had. I don't see that happening. They're going to go to Houston. They're playing extremely well. They got a hot quarterback. Like, I'm not saying they couldn't lose that game, but I don't think they're going to lose the last 2, and I think they're going to win the last 2. And I think they got a great chance to go from 2-4 to 8-4. This is an amazing deal. And the staff, everybody on this staff, Spavital was unbelievable today. That first half was just unreal. And then late, they did a good job of mixing things up, ball control, sticking with the run. I mean, lots of good stuff there. I mean, there's not a single person on this staff I don't want back. Think about most years, you're like, oh, I don't think the old coordinator's doing that great. Oh, defense coordinator. I mean, if anything, the head coach is, the defense from time to time is, a little frustrating with some of their coverage and all the PIs and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, they find a way to win. And the way that defense, I mean, that's complimentary football. That's a team like going crazy for a half and the offense being unbelievable, and then the offense bogging down a little bit, and the defense coming to the rescue in the second half. That's what a team does. Man, it's so Dave Aranda has done enough to return next season, and he's given the program hope. He's brought excitement back, and got one more home game. Finish against Kansas. Kansas playing as we tape this. They'll be getting ready to play later tonight against BYU. They might give BYU some problems out there. You never know. BYU almost got beat by a bad Oklahoma State team. They almost got beat by a bad Utah team. They are somewhat vulnerable. And I wouldn't put it past Kansas to go out there and play a pretty good ball game. I mean, they're underdogs by like 2.5 or 3 points or something like that. So it's not like Vegas doesn't like Kansas, but the Bears now have a chance to finish up and go 8-4 and go to a pretty good bowl game. I don't know what it'll be. One of my buddies texted and said they were hoping for like the Pop-Tart Bowl. I think that's the Orlando. They've been mentioned in the Rate Bowl. That one's out in Phoenix. But the fact that it's guaranteed and the Bears are bowling again is stunning. It's stunning. Like before the season, you kind of thought, well, they need to kind of go 6-6, and we wanted more. And then at 2-4, it's like they didn't have a chance. Like there's no way. And you win 4 in a row, and they sit here at 6-4, 4-3 in conference. Tremendous stuff. All right, that is my reaction. We'll get that up for you quickly. We appreciate my man Mike Hamilton, everybody at Rogue Media Network, and enjoy this one. Man, go live it up as the Bears take down the Mountaineers in Morgantown, no less. A great day to be a Bear, and a great day, by the way. We've had Mac Rhodes was on the podcast and on my radio show. The West Virginia AD, Scott Drew, was on yesterday. It's been a good run for both our podcast and the radio show, and we appreciate everybody. Subscribe and tell a friend, all right? I almost feel like I'm inviting you to church tomorrow. Tell a friend. Invite them to Sunday school tomorrow. But subscribe, okay? I mean, I don't really make any money off of it, but just subscribe anyway. And we'd love to have you on Obstructed View with Matt Mosley. Good night, everybody.
We are Rogue Media Sports.